Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to take a look at a couple of comics that I would absolutely not purchase right now. And these books come from different publishers, different time periods, and I also cite different rationales for why I would not buy these comics now. Stay tuned. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of examples of books that I would not buy. And the very first book is this one that is on the screen right now. This is Shazam issue number 1, published in 1973 by DC Comics. This book is the first appearance of Captain Marvel in DC Comics, and a really cool book, a book that I have passed on several times over the years, partly because I wasn't a big DC fan, partly because I wasn't a big Shazam fan, but I want to drill into some of the data here, and I want to blow this up for you all so you can see it a little bit better. There are roughly 4,600 copies of this book on the census. 4,400 of them are universal blue label. When we drill down, we can see that there are roughly 300 copies of this book at a 9.8 on the CGC census, and a lot of those books have traded hands. 284 out of 295. There, of course, could be some duplicates in there, but there's a lot of turnover is essentially what that tells me. The fair market value for this book is a mathematical calculation. It is set at $775. On the right-hand side here, you can see how this book is performing at the 1 year, the 90-day, and the 30-day in terms of average sales over time. And you can see that the range is relatively flat. I mean, it's a relatively flat range. 754, 740, 750 is what it looks like at the 30-day. When we drill in, what we can see here is that the data looks a little bit different, right? The FMV, again, is a mathematical calculation. You, again, can see that the 30-day for this book is sitting at about 750. And when you start to look at the individual sales, you can see the most recent sale on 3/16 was $700. The sale before that on 3/10 was $800. There was a best offer back in February. I don't know what that one was, but we can assume it was roughly somewhere around $700. Given the sale before that and the sale after, we can assume that it was around 700 and some odd dollars, probably a little bit less than the asking price there of $737. Interesting that $800 book actually had off-white pages, which is kind of interesting. Someone may have overpaid for that. But again, as you look at this book, it doesn't necessarily look like a terrible buy. It doesn't really look like a terrible buy. And let's back up and we can glance ever so quickly at the 9.6. You can see there's a lot of those on the census, 801 versus the 9.8, which is kind of sort of a good thing, right? But again, a lot of those have traded hands, around 700 of the 801. And again, I know that there's some duplicates there, but there is turnover. This book is a lot more affordable, right? You're looking at roughly $200 to go ahead and pick this book up. And so the question becomes, why am I recommending that people not buy this book, right? Part of the reason why I'm recommending that they not look at this book isn't because it's not a good book. It's not because the prices aren't favorable. It is honestly more about the fact that this movie did not perform well, right? This book, the movie that came out associated with this book had pretty good audience scores. I think the last time I looked at Rotten Tomatoes, it was at about 88%. But overall, this movie is not performing well. And so my thought here is that the value associated with this book could potentially come down as a result of the movie underperforming. Generally speaking, after a movie comes out, books tend to lose their value. There's a run up before movie comes out, value drops. This is an underperforming movie. And so not only could you have a typical drop, but you could have an additional drop because the movie did not perform. So my thought here is that if this is a book, is a character that you're interested in, you may want to wait. You may want to wait a little while because you might actually see the values for this book decline regardless of the grade that you happen to be looking at. And again, as you start to look down the list, the prices 30-day are not terrible. They're not terrible at all. Whether you're looking at the 30-day or the FMV, it's not terrible. But imagine being able to pick up a 9.8 for, a lot less. 600, maybe 600. Who knows? Who knows what could happen with this one? But my thought here is maybe now is not necessarily the time to snag this book because some other things could happen. So the next book that I want to look at is, I think, a really cool book. It is a book that is hot right now. It is hot right now because there's going to be a show that's going to be coming out from Sony on Amazon Prime associated with this one. We are talking about Spiderman Noir. Spiderman Noir issue number 1. Really awesome cover right here. This is a cool book. And again, this book has a little bit of a run up right now because there is going to be a new series that's going to be coming out regarding this character. And this book, I should say. There are roughly 900 copies of this book on the CGC census, with the vast majority of them, 882 out of 894, being a universal blue label, which is a really good thing. There are about 500, which is kind of sort of a healthy amount of what's out there. 500 copies that are a 9.8. FMV is sitting at $550. And you can see, as you look at the 1 year to the 90 day to the 30 day, there has been a run up in the value of this book. And for modern books, I like the 9.8. That is where I like to be for these books, especially as we like to, evaluate how this book is performing. You can see a nice jump up in the value of this book as you went from, let's say, October of 2022. This book was going for $232.50. It is now jumped up in March to $524. And you can specifically look at the individual sale here down at the bottom on 3/13. This book went for $550. There was another sale here on the same day. Not quite sure what that person paid for, but I'm guessing it was less than $600. But there was a sale before that on 3/12, $550. On 3/10, $550. A sale on 3/16, $529. Again, one of the great things about Gold Collect, you have the ability to look at the individual sales. Why do I think that this is a book that folks may want to stay away from right now? It is honestly because of the run up in value. It is honestly because of what is happening right now. Picking up a book when it is red ocean, when it is hot, potentially is not the right time to pick the book up. You want to pick the book up when no one is paying attention to it, right? Look at the 1 year. Look at the 1 year. Look what was happening a year ago. This book, $100 from the 8.5 all the way up, kind of sort of, to the 9.4, $160. Not that terrible. 9.6 average, 196. That is not bad when you compare that to where it is right now at the current 30-day average. Potentially the time has gotten past us with Spider-Man Noir. Again, a great book, great cover, right? I hope that the show comes out and the show is incredibly popular, but again, the time to have bought this one might have been a little while ago. The other thing that I hear is that this show that is live action that is coming out on Amazon, I do not think that it is going to feature Peter Parker. So I'm not quite sure who the Spider-Man will be that will be depicted in this one, but it appears to not be Spider-Man. Again, great book. Hope the show does incredibly well. But this is one that if I do not have it in my collection now, if I am not able to get it for a super cheap price, I don't know that I would touch this one right now. All right. So the next book that we're going to look at is a book that I actually had in the collection at one point in time and sold it probably well over a year ago, maybe close to 2 years. No, maybe a year and a half by now. It is a cool book. It is a cool book. It is this one right here. It is Hulk issue number 1, published in 2008. And I picked this book up off the shelf back in the day. And it is a cool book. There is no doubt about it. There is a lot of excitement around this book right now because Harrison Ford is going to be taking on the role of Thunderbolt Ross, and he is going to be appearing in the upcoming Captain America movie. And so folks are excited about that. I love some Harrison Ford and have loved him since Indiana Jones, since the original Indiana Jones stuff. So I'm a big fan of Harrison Ford, but this is not a book that I would touch right now. And I want to explain why. Let's go ahead and look at the data around this book. There are roughly 3,800 copies of this book out there, total graded. 3,600 of them are a universal blue label. Interesting, there are 3 9.9s on the census. That is crazy. That is crazy. The 9.8, roughly 1,400 copies. A little less than half of them, 628, were sold in the near whatever time span this looks at. FMV for this book, $290. You can see how the value is playing out here from the 1 year to the 90-day to the 30-day. Somewhat flat, generally speaking. So let's drill into this one and take a look at what is happening with this one. You can see here that the book is roughly going for about $300 as of late. No, there's a lot of sales on the same day. $300, $319, $253. Someone got a smoking deal there for the $253 versus what the others paid here. A few days before that, $308. Somebody paid $229. So again, not a terribly expensive book. Not a terribly expensive book at all. So why do I say don't pick this book up? Yes, it is potentially a red ocean book, right? Because people are paying attention to it, people are flocking to it. That is somewhat driving the price up, and you can maybe kind of sort of see that. I mean, it's kind of died off a little bit, so maybe it's not, jumping as much as one would expect. And maybe there's reasons for that. Maybe there's reasons for that, which is going to be the very first point that I'm going to make here. The appearance of the Red Hulk in this one is a little debatable. It is a little bit of a debatable thing that this is the first appearance of the Red Hulk. And you'll actually notice here, there is no details. There are no details that are here from Go Collect as to whether this book is a key or not, because it is debatable. Yes, the Red Hulk does appear on the cover here, which might be a first cover appearance, but the story, there is no Red Hulk in this story. Not really. There is a little bit of a flashback from somebody's perspective, but we don't actually technically see a Red Hulk in this issue. You actually see the Red Hulk in issue number 2. Hulk issue number 2 is where you actually see the Red Hulk. So there's a little bit of a debate, right? Is this the first true appearance of this character? Yes, he's on the cover. Does he appear in the interior? You have to read the story. You'll make that determination. I question it, right? If you were going to pick up a Thunderbolt Ross book, it would, of course, be Hulk 1. There's no doubt about that, right? Secondarily, is this the book because of the cover? I don't know. Or do you go out and get the issue 2, Hulk issue number 2, where we see Hulk in that issue, throughout that issue, and also a little snippet of him on the cover. If you buy this one, it's not a bad book, but don't pay a crazy amount of money for it. The cover's good, but it's not great. If you want a real Red Hulk cover, you definitely want to look at Hulk 2, one of the variant covers. That is a dope Red Hulk cover. So there you have it. That is my rationale for why I would not necessarily pick this book up. It is a debatable first appearance of the Red Hulk. Ideally, you would get Hulk 1, the real Hulk 1 from the 60s. That would be the great one. But if you're going to maybe pick one up associated with Red Hulk, again, Hulk issue number 2 could be a better book. I don't know. You guys think about it. Sound off in the comment section and let me know what you think. So there you have it. That is essentially, my rundown of books that I would not touch, along with my rationale. I would encourage you to use your own judgment. Watch the video, enjoy the video, use your own judgment, and decide where and how and if you actually want to buy these books or not. And again, my thought is no. Don't buy these books, but you guys will have to decide for yourself. With that said, I want to wrap this video up, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, I certainly want to encourage you to give the video a thumbs up. Whether you enjoyed it or not, I encourage you to leave a comment behind. Maybe there's a book you want me to take a look at. Leave that in the comment section, and maybe the next video will show your book. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yeah. Should you practice art? Or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it. Not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, the one that's gonna be a master, the one that's more than a rapper, the one that's an educator, the one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts, he's got the mindset expansive. He understands that it's time combined with travel and concepts. makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan. Straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms with pure souls having them conversations. Synergy and combinations. You fly and we waiting. Indian style and the gold.